Hello grade 4, welcome again. With you Mrs. Minna Raouf, your science teacher. Today we will start Unit 6 Lesson 2. What are moon phases? In the last lesson we talked about Sun, Earth, Moon system. And we talked about the movement of the moon and movement of the Earth. The moon. The moon is Earth's satellite. And satellite means it's an object that moves around another large object in space. So, a satellite means an object moves around another larger object in space. The moon is the largest, brightest object in the night sky. It looks large because it's so close to Earth. So, we can see moon and it looks large because it's so close to Earth. The moon is small compared to Earth. It's about 1/4 the size of Earth. The moon has no air, wind, or liquid water. So, the moon is small compared to Earth. It equals about 1/4 the size of Earth, and it has no air, wind, or liquid water. We see the moon because light from the sun reflects from it and back to the earth. And the pulls of Earth's gravity keep the moon in the orbit around Earth. And I told you before that the revolution of the moon around Earth takes about 1 month. Only one side of the moon is seen from Earth because the moon takes the same amount of time to rotate on its axis and it does to orbit Earth once. This is I told you before in the last session that we see only one side of the moon because it takes the same time to rotate on its axis as it does to orbit Earth once. And this takes about 1 month. The moon's surface has many craters, and the craters mean holes on it. And these craters were formed by rocks and chunks of debris from space slamming into the moon. And the surface of the moon has mountains and large flat plains. And what mean by plain? Plain mean flat area. As Earth orbits the sun or revolve around the sun, the moon also revolve or orbit around the Earth. The moon reflects the light from the sun. As the moon travels in its orbit, different amount of the moon-lit side can be seen from Earth. The change of the appearance of the moon shape is known as moon phases. So, as the moon orbits around Earth, different amounts of moon-lit side can be seen from Earth. So, the change in the appearance of the moon shape known as moon phases. Even though the sunlight reflects from the moon to Earth, the sun lights only half of the moon at any time. So, the sun lights only reach half of the moon at any time. The motion of the Earth and the moon are responsible for the phases that we see. So, the phases of the moon because the Earth's motion and the moon motion. As the moon revolves around the Earth, the amount of lit parts that we see change. And this is called moon phases. Each phase of the moon has different shape. It takes about 1 month for the moon to complete all of its phases. Then the cycle repeats. So, each phase of the moon has different shape. And it takes about 1 month for the moon to complete all of its phases. And the cycle repeats again. The phases of the moon start from new moon, crescent, first quarter, waxing, full moon, waning, last quarter or third quarter, and crescent again. The crescent always be before and after the new moon. During the new moon, we can see the moon because the lead part of the moon faces away from Earth. And here, the moon will be between Earth and Sun. During the new moon, the moon between Earth and Sun. As the moon moves in its orbit, we see more of it. So it began with new moon, and when we began to see more of it, it's called first quarter moon. We see a full moon when all of the lead part of the moon faces Earth, where the Earth is between Sun and moon. And we see less and less of the moon until we are the new moon again. So during full moon phases, the Earth will be between Sun and moon, and we see all of the lead part of the moon faces Earth. So after the full moon, we see less and less till we reach the third quarter moon, and after that we reach new moon again. Lunar and solar calendars. For thousands of years, people used the phases of the moon to make the calendars and track time. And these calendars that use the moon phases is called lunar calendars. So, the calendar that uses the moon phases is called lunar calendars. Also, the revolution of Earth around the Sun has been used to make calendars and track time. And these calendars are called solar calendars. So we have lunar calendars that depend on the moon phases and solar calendars that depend on the revolution of Earth around the Sun. So our modern calendar is based on Earth's orbit around the Sun. The Chinese zodiac calendar is based that part of it based on the phases of moon. It consists of 12 animals stand for cycles of time on this calendar. And as the calendar is based on the Earth's orbit around the Sun, and each part of this calendar is marked by animals or symbols, marking important times of years. So we have two types of calendar: lunar calendars that depend on the moon phases, and solar calendars that depend on the Earth's orbit around the Sun. And you should know that our calendar that we used now is depend on the Earth's orbit around the Sun.
The moon. The moon is our nearest neighbor in space. It is much closer to us than the sun. It is only 239,000 miles away. The sun is 93 million miles away. The moon is much smaller than the Earth. The moon is not like the sun or other stars. It does not give off its own light. It only reflects the light of the sun. That means the sun's light bounces off it. A planet orbits a sun. A moon orbits a planet. The moon takes 28 days to go completely around the Earth. The moon is not smooth on its surface. It has craters, big holes. It has no air. It does not have water. so there is no life on the moon. But people have visited the moon. Neil Armstrong, an American astronaut, was the first person to step on the moon. Moon phases. The moon looks different at different times. Does it change its shape? No, the moon stays the same. What changes is how we see it from Earth. But we don't always see all of that side. Sometimes we only see part of it. This is because of the way it moves around the Earth. Remember that the moon only reflects the light of the sun. So, when the sun is behind the moon, we can't see it at all. We call this a new moon. The night is very dark. When the sun is facing the moon, we see the whole face of the moon lit up. This is called a full moon. What happens between the new moon and the full moon? We see only parts of the moon. First, we see just a little slice. Only a little of the sun's light is hitting the moon. It seems to get bigger each night. Then we can see half of the moon lit up. Each night we see more and more of it. Then finally we see the full moon. After that, it seems to get smaller again. We see less and less of it. Then we cannot see it at all. From Earth, it looks like the sun is not lighting up the moon. This is called the new moon. Then the cycle starts all over again. These are called the phases of the moon. The next time you're outside at night, look at the moon. Watch how it changes from one night to the next. Let us now summarize what we...
Now we have finished our lesson. Please don't forget your homework. Check LMS and answer worksheet 5 and send it to me on our mail الواح@americansciencehomework@gmail.com. See you grade 4. Bye bye.